Welcome back. It is the Flow Friday Sports Show here on Flow FM, and it is time for a look at the River Murray Netball Association. It was a good slate of games on the weekend, and Pat Brown is on the line to tell us all about them. Great to have you back on the show, Pat. How are you going?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. And you?
Very good, thank you. Let's get into this action from round 10. Now, we billed it as the match of the round last week, the Imperials versus the Suns, and it was the Imperials getting on top to win back top spot on the ladder, 57-49. Looked like a thriller. You were there, Pat, so tell us all about it.
Yes, I had a chance to actually watch the Suns for the first time, and I sort of took particular interest in their warming up because I was unaware that the Suns had as much height as they did, and it was very versatile height too, that from either end. So it was interesting. It was also interesting to see that Imperials coach Carrie Daniel made changes to her team this week from the game against Maipo by adding extra height to her two wing positions. So she'd obviously learnt from the first time they played each other that one of the Suns' biggest strengths is their height. So she added some height of her own, which is great versatility for a coach to be able to call on those players when needed. But it was a really great game. They were very competitive right from the word go. It was, goal for goal. But Imperials just, more than just settled, they stabilised every playing position. And although the Suns tried throwing different things and changes at them, and they did do some of the tactical changes and to try and find a kink in the armour, Imperials definitely had the game right from the first quarter, and they controlled it. The Suns tried all different things to get themselves back into the game, and they would come back 2 or 3 goals, and then Imps would get away again. But it was a brilliant game of netball to watch. If these two end up playing each other in the grand final, it is going to be a brilliant grand final because they were just so on par, competitive position for position.
All right, excellent game of netball there in round 10. And like we said, the Imperials go back to top of the ladder. It was a 14-goal margin when they played in round 1, just 8 this time around. So the Suns have closed that gap. And it's no surprise to see why the Suns have been scoring so much with all that height up in the goal circle.
Oh, and in the defence end as well. I mean, I don't think I've seen a team in a long time that have had so much choice for height.
A couple of other good close games on the weekend. Mannum on the road managed to get a win against Tailem Bend, 51-45.
Yeah, this game started as the last time they played finished. Both teams wanted the win. Both teams needed the win. Mannum, because they're fighting for that 4th spot, probably would have expected to finish the game with a bit more of a higher score like they did the first time they met. But Tailem Ben have improved, and they would have gone after that game as well, as much as they possibly could. There would have been challenges player on player across all areas of the court in all thirds, but Tailem Ben would have battled hard because they really do want to do better than what they have been. So this time around, and although it did not go their way, they did manage to reduce the margin on the last time they played. Last time in round 1 they fell apart in the last quarter, but this time they played the game out, which I think would have been something that the team and coaching staff and everything would have had pleasure in seeing, that they did play the whole game, but still were just not strong enough to get around Mannum.
All right, so there's a bit of a logjam in the middle of the ladder. Mannum and the Ramblers at 5 and 4, Maipolonga at 4 and 5, sort of gunning for that 4th spot, and all 3 of them got wins on the weekend. We just touched on Mannum's win, but Maipolonga also had a good win. They beat Jervois, who are knocking on the door of that middle pack. 11-goal margin in that one, 52-41.
Yeah, this was a great game. These two teams had respect for each other, which is really good to see. There's no animosity in any of the playing positions. And across the court and in each third, it's a very competitive defence lineup for both teams. Maipo took the lead in the first quarter and never looked back, even when Jervois came at them again and again. It was been great to see. It would have been a good spectacle of a game played with great spirit. With young players in both teams, they're all learning, they're all developing. It would have been a good game to watch. It wouldn't have had the strong determination of the more experienced teams, but it still would have been a great game of netball, and I think all the spectators would have enjoyed it. I mean, there was only 11 goals in the end.
Last game of the round, Ramblers beat the Coorong Cats 71-29, and the Ramblers have the bye next week. Next week is Indigenous round, so the Ramblers held their Indigenous game in this one against the Cats. Tell us about it, Pat.
Yeah, they started the day with a welcome to country done by Georgie Trevorrow, and the Ramblers players actually wore bibs that were designed by Jasmine Trevorrow. So that's keeping it certainly in-house with the club. The girls did the bibs are beautiful, and Georgie did an excellent welcome to country, and everybody embraced the spirit of the event. The Cats have been plagued with some injuries. So they did have a new player come into their goal circle, which created a little bit of a slowdown for the attacking as the players in that attacking part of the court get used to each other. But Ramblers have also changed their defence end, so they've gone a bit shorter than they normally do, but the two players that they had in there are very good on elevation and speed and deflection, and so it would have been a good game to watch. The scoreline doesn't always reflect the standard of the play, and it's just those few errors of rebounds and passes not going quite where they should and things like that can blow the score line out to like a 42-goal difference. But this game was played with the greatest of respect.
Fantastic stuff for round 10. Now let's look ahead to round 11, where it is the full Indigenous round, and there's some really good games on the agenda this week. Let's start off with the Coorong Cats again. They're taking on Tailem Bend at Meningie, and it's a good opportunity for both of these teams to get a rare win on the board.
Yes, it is. This is going to be an interesting game with them both sort of down the bottom of the premiership table there. At least Tailem Bend are only going to Meningie, so that's something that's not unusual for them, and they will relish that close drive-by compared to some of the country travelling. It'll be a good game. For the Eagles last week, they took the game up to Mannum, so they would have gained a bit of confidence from that by losing last week by less. So they'll take the court with confidence, but they should not underestimate the need for a win for the Cats. So I think it'll be a fairly even contested across all playing positions, and could be a chance for the Cats, given that with their new players. But the Eagles will hold on for the win because they need to, and the girls themselves know in their own minds they need to.
Tips in for Tailem Bend there. Mannum are hosting the Mallee Storm in another one that should be pretty tight this weekend.
Mannum would have enjoyed the win last week, although they would have sort of hoped for a bigger percentage. And this week will be no different for the Mannums, but the defensive height is going to be nullified by the Storm's players in both ends of the court. And the Storm are also stronger this time around. Especially in the goal areas with Tennille Gray. She's proving to be a bit of a highlight for the Storm. And although Mannum have Kelly McGorman, who's a very experienced goal defender with equal height, it's going to be a good battle between the players in the goal circle there. Mannum will have their work cut out for them, and I can't see the Storm, who are battling to get into the top two positions, allowing them to get in. I think the Storm are going to win this game. Again, look, every week we seem to be having good games. A Storm are just going to be bodily too strong across all playing positions, I think, for Mannum to be able to penetrate.
All right, last couple of games of the round. Southern Suns hosting Maipo at Pinaroo.
It's a long journey for Maipo to go all the way down to Pinaroo. They'll cope with it and they'll do it. Maipo played well against Imps, and they'll need more of that determination and combinations to work this week against the Suns. Height is going to be an issue in feeding into the ring for Maipo. They've tended to play with shorter wing attacks for most of this season, and it might be time for the coach to have a look at maybe having a bit of extra height around that feeding edge of the ring to help penetrate against the Suns' defensive height. The Suns will take the win because they do have that strong advantage of height across the whole court area. Young Charlie Lewis, being the only tall player in the attacking end for Maipo, will have her work cut out for her. Suns are going to win this game, but if the Maipo that played against Imps come, it's not going to be as easy as what the Suns would like.
Should be a good game there at Pinaroo. Last match of the round, the Imperials, they can stay top with a win. That's all they need to do really every week from here on out, because they are on top as it stands. They're heading to Jervois, and I think we'd be tipping them for another win.
Jervois will host the top team, Imps. They're a good, balanced team. Like the first time they met, they came out and were closer to Imps at the end of the scoreline than most people would have expected. But they'll push the Blues as much as they possibly can. But the Blues have got too much experience for Imps across all the playing positions. And the Bloods will they'll come back time and time again, and they'll have a crack, and they'll encourage the young kids to have a crack against the more experienced players like Olivia Bolt and Kalari Dokic, who was an ex-Jervois player. But Imps won't give up this game. They've got back the number one position after beating the Suns last week, and they'll want to make sure they keep it. So they'll go on and work hard and perfect their combinations that Carrie obviously is still playing with to make sure that they go into the finals competition as strong as they possibly can be. But Jervois will have a crack. There's no doubt about it, and they'll do that for the whole 4 quarters.
Plenty to look forward to in River Murray Netball this weekend. All the best, Pat. Enjoy the action. We'll speak to you next Friday.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.